What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about Titanfall. More specifically, I'm going to be taking a look at Titanfall 1 4 years later. So when Titanfall debuted, there was a decent amount of fanfare around it, as it was one of the, first games to come to the new generation of consoles. However, I feel like that fanfare soon kind of died off, and you could find this game a couple years later for like $15, and that's exactly what I did. And so when I finally did pick up this game, I was surprised to find out how great it was, and how good of a concept it was, and just how well they were able to pull together human and mech combat. So first of all, this game had an insanely good concept, and you can see that reflected in a lot of the concept art that came out for the game. These guys really set out to make something new, which is commendable considering how many re-releases of popular games we see today. Even from the tutorial, you knew the game was going to be fun and, something else. However, part of the reason I think the game flew under the radar is because it just was a little light on content, which is disappointing considering how amazing this concept was. It almost feels like a proof of concept, like, hey, this is this crazy idea that we can do, so we're just going to make a quick multiplayer-only shooter. And for what it is, I think the game holds up extremely well. It reminds me a lot of some of the free-to-play shooters from back in the day, like Nezuix or Urban Terror, games that were super stripped down, made on an obviously extremely low budget, but rely on just super tight gameplay, a good sense of style, and just a lot of replayability and kind of off-the-walls fun. And that's where Titanfall excels. In a lot of ways, it kind of harkens back to the days of Quake, where shooters had these ridiculous movement mechanics. You could, rocket jump and bounce off of walls, and those older games had this kind of fast and frantic feel to them. And Titanfall kind of brought that back with the movement system. And for when this came out in 2014, there was that other game, Brink, I think, that tried to do it, but just, failed miserably. But for 2014, I think the movement is awesome. It feels super fluid, the way the parkour is integrated into the shooting, and it seems like something that Advanced Warfare and all of those new Call of Duty games have just ripped off, and honestly, they don't do it as well. Respawn Entertainment really, struck gold with that movement system. And a lot like some of those old school shooters, my god, is the story flimsy. I mean, there really isn't a story. There's the IMC and the two other bad guys, bad corporations that fight each other, and robots. Like, it's the flimsiest concept ever, but the concept art and the maps and the varied environments you fight through, where you're basically on these different kind of planets, and they have these civilizations built, and there's warring corporations. Like, there is a good story somewhere in there, it's just they didn't really get to explore it. So it just basically serves as the backdrop for two people, shooting each other up. Titanfall 1, I think, could have really benefited from an insane single-player campaign, and I don't know if they started the game out just as a multiplayer-only shooter, or if they had to scrap the campaign for budget or time restraints. I understand they brought it back in Titanfall 2, and the campaign was actually very good, and that's a game I would like to play soon. Playing this old Titanfall game really has got me in the mood for more vehicle and mech combat. The lightness of the content in the game really becomes apparent once you get to the weapon and Titan customization. With only 3 Titans and a handful of primary weapons and no skins or camos or any way to kind of make your Titan your own, once you reach a certain level, you've kind of done everything there is to do. And once you unlock certain weapons, you don't really want to experiment around with the other kits. There are certain guns that are just OP and a lot better than other guns in the game. For instance, there's a small SMG, like a compact one, that you eventually unlock a better version of, and then there's no reason to use the other gun. There are a minimal amount of scopes, and when it comes to customization of your Titan, you can change the voice and an insignia, but that's about it. But these are honestly minor gripes. We've seen a lot of games come out where the customization is just over the top with loot boxes and all this other shit, but at the end of the day, the core games aren't that good. Games such as Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Destiny 2 have a ton of customization, but when it starts getting metered out in these loot boxes, it just becomes like a big money suck. It's like, are you unlocking stuff to build your character and go play the game, or is the company that made the game just trying to extract more money out of you? Again, it's mostly a minor gripe, as I understand this game was kind of a proof of concept. However, a little deeper customization in Titanfall 1 could have made the game stick around a lot longer and hold its value better. The map design is also extremely commendable in this game, as they had to design them to be both suited for colossal robots and just regular first-person shooter combat, and they do a great job of this by incorporating open sections with more tight corridors, and then kind of warehouse or large building sections or city centers that have paths cut out large enough for the Titans to move around, but then on each side of the path have some vertical buildings, a lot of verticality, so you can jump onto the Titans. And because of this whole parkour method, the game's verticality really shines. A lot of games like Call of Duty and even Call of Duty Advanced Warfare don't have that feeling of, oh, you know, someone's up a cliff or 4 stories up in a building jumping off a roof. That kind of just flat shooter dynamic has kind of plagued Call of Duty for years, and Titanfall was really able to kind of break out of that box. Also, the addition of AI teammates and AI enemies is super fun. With only 7 or so members on each team, that can leave things feeling a little sparse and you don't get the sense of a large battle, but when you bring in AI soldiers and robotic soldiers, it feels like there's an all-out war going on, and it's fun to be able to sling into a room and just mow down 5 enemies. It kind of combines the best of both worlds. The fun of a campaign where you just slaughter AI, and the challenge of fighting a real person and how you balance between the two. Also, there are some very creative weapons in the game, such as the auto-locking smart pistol and a plasma beam that could be used to take out Titans. Or who could forget the massive railgun that you could stick on your Titan and use it to just annihilate people. Titan combat feels super fluid too, but you never feel too powerful. There are enough kind of checks and balances in the game where even just one soldier who knows what he's doing can take out a Titan using some combination of bombs, anti-Titan weapons, and active camouflage. Graphics look good. It has that kind of early next generation console look, but it has a pretty sharp color scheme, and overall everything just looks really tight, and also the design of the maps is great and has that nice near future feel. If the game had slightly larger teams, however, squad-based gameplay could have come in, because as Titanfall is now, it's pretty much a lone wolf experience. Even when you do play with your friends, it's pretty hard to coordinate attacks, considering most people just play attrition, which is just an all-out deathmatch. Still fun, but not super team-based. 4 years later, Titanfall is still a blast. The graphics are good, and the controls and overall gameplay still feel fluid and tight. I would definitely recommend picking this game up, as you can find a disc pretty cheap. So that about does it for this video. Stay tuned for more music and game-related content. Peace.